And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by Darren Wilson. And Darren Wilson writes, "Hey, John and team. Hope you're all doing well. I've just seen that the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer broke the 24-hour viewing record, which is exciting. But my question is that clearly Spider-Man is more popular than ever, with the MCU banner attached. So do you think we could be looking at a further extension, I should say, of the Sony/Disney contract? Thanks." All right. Thanks a lot for writing that in, man. And yes, now this obviously happened a number of days ago. On our first day at CinemaCon, we were the first people that they showed the first brand new Spider-Man No Way Home trailer that wasn't that crappy piece of garbage leak that they put online. So they, the chairman of Sony Pictures came out, he introduced the trailer, they played the trailer for us, and a little bit later that evening, they put it online for the world to see. And it broke all kinds of records. It broke all kinds of records, including more views in its first 24 hours than Endgame did. This comes to us from Deadline, who writes, "After dropping the teaser at CinemaCon and on social media Monday night, the trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home racked up an all-time viewership record of 355.5 million global views in its first 24 hours, blowing away the previous record holder, Disney Marvel's Avengers Endgame, which drove 289 million views. Simply wow. No Way Home's draw is more than double that of the second trailer for Spider-Man Far From Home, which hit 135 million views at the 24-hour mark. That movie, released in 2019, reps Sony's largest grossing title in the studio's history with $1.131 billion. The pick opened across 6 days, racking up $185 million. And wow is right. Wow is right. And it leaves us now asking a couple of questions, really. One question is, why did this trailer get that many views? Because let's face it, it's not the best trailer Marvel's ever put out.
No.
I thought it was a very good trailer. I enjoyed it a lot, but it ain't the best trailer Marvel's ever put out. So why did it do so well? And number two is, seeing this kind of interest in this movie, does this help the chances of Sony and Disney re-upping their deal to extend Spider-Man's stay in the MCU? Or do these numbers actually hurt the chances that Spider-Man stays in the MCU? My opinion on this might surprise you. But let's talk about first, Rob, the question about why. Why did this trailer get so many eyeballs? I think there's a couple of reasons. I think one, obviously Spider-Man is an insanely popular character. Two, I think it speaks a little bit to the fact that a lot more people are like me that aren't really super interested in a standalone Black Widow project. And I think a lot of people are looking at this Spider-Man movie as the true kind of launch, if you will, of, our familiar MCU, Eternals notwithstanding. So I think a lot of people have been really waiting for this movie, in the middle of the variant and all that kind of stuff, of the Delta aspect of the pandemic, all that kind of stuff. I just think people were really, really excited. They didn't know what was going to be in it. People didn't know if we were going to see Andrew Garfield pop up in it or not, if Tobey Maguire was going to pop up in it or not. I mean, all that kind of stuff. So I think there was a lot of curiosity. I think it's a popularity thing. I think it's a buildup of anticipation thing. There's a lot of aspects in there. As far as the question, though, Rob, about whether or not this helps or hurts the chances of Spider-Man staying in the MCU longer, I think it actually hurts the chances of Spider-Man staying in the MCU longer. I really do. I think more than ever, Sony is absolutely confident that they can take Spider-Man now and take him back into their Sonyverse, if you will. And they're going to be able to do great things with it, because here's the thing. All this trailer has done, and all the popularity of the trailer has done, is increased the profile of Spider-Man. They've just made the IP of Spider-Man even more valuable. And now Sony knows that we take it back. We're taking back an even more valuable IP than we would have if we took him back 6 months ago or a year ago when they were going to take him back, back at D23 of last time. So I think if anything, Rob, I think the success of this thing is only going to embolden Sony that their plan to take Spider-Man back is the right move and the right plan. And it'll, send everything off with a big bang. And by the way, I know people don't like hearing me say it, but tough. I think Sony is going to do very well with Spider-Man. Especially because, listen, I still think to this day that Sony has made the two best Spider-Man movies that have ever been made. They made Spider-Man 2 and they made Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And to me, those are those are still the two best Spider-Man films ever made. And so I think they're going to do just fine. And so, yeah. So Rob, that's why I think this trailer was so popular. And I actually think the popularity of this is going to hurt the chances of Spider-Man staying in the MCU for too terribly much longer. Rob, you saw the trailer. First of all, what did you think about the trailer? Why do you think it got so many eyeballs? And does the success of this trailer hurt or help the idea of Spider-Man staying in the MCU any longer?
Well, I mean, look, I'm excited. I like Tom Holland's take on Spider-Man. I've enjoyed the first two Spider-Man movies, and I've enjoyed Tom Holland's appearances as Spider-Man in movies like Civil War. It's been fun for me, but I haven't loved those Spider-Man movies as much as I've wanted to, because I kind of want to see a Spider-Man movie where it's really just him, that
right.
But that said, it clearly looks intriguing. I do like the fact that the movie kicks off from where the last movie ended, in this dilemma that Spider-Man has been outed and that he's gone to Doctor Strange. I mean, I just, that idea appeals to me, that he goes to Doctor Strange to help him out. I mean, that's kind of what you do. Like if you were in the New York of the MCU and you knew you had a problem, you go to Doctor Strange because he has a particular set of skills, and you ask him to use those sets of skills, and then you don't really think about it. In the middle of him trying to help you, you're like, well, wait, no, I did, and it goes all foobar. I like that. I think that it seems good. I like the idea of this movie. I just hope, the thing that I was thinking about when I saw the trailer was, I just hope that it isn't too much like the movie becomes this huge gimmick. The universes are colliding, everything's going crazy, and Spider-Man himself as a character gets lost in all these shenanigans. I mean, look, don't get me wrong, I love my multiverse reality splitting apart and all that, but I also like Spider-Man. And sometimes I just enjoy Spider-Man, Peter Parker being Spider-Man. Do we have to have the cataclysmic universes colliding? Well, in this movie, we have it. I just hope he's not overwhelmed. I hope we just get a lot of Spider-Man in the movie. But that said, come on. It certainly looks like it's going to be cool. And I'm not going to lie, John, when Doc Ock, when Alfred Molina shows up at the end and says, hello, Peter, I'm like, okay. I mean, I'm in. I mean, look, I'm a sucker. I'm an easy lay for these movies. And that just, how could you not like that? And you get the pumpkin bomb. So is Willem Dafoe going to show up? You look at all the little videos people have made about little Easter eggs and things. I mean, I can't deny, John, I'm pretty excited to see this movie.
Yeah.
Do I think it's going to do well? Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to make $1 billion. Probably will make, we talked about which movie would make it to 100 million first. I think this might be, if any movie is going to gross $1 billion of the movies that are coming out, I think Spider-Man's probably once again our top candidate for that. I don't know if it can during a global pandemic. We'll see where we are December 17th, but I think it's going to be huge. I also think it ups the value of Sony's Spider-Verse, and maybe this is their last hurrah with Marvel, and now it's going to go back, and the next story is going to be about Kraven the Hunter, which they could do. That's going to come right out of the spot, because do they need Marvel anymore? I don't know.
They see, this is the thing, and everybody doesn't like it when I say it, but it's the truth. Sony doesn't need Marvel, and Marvel doesn't need Spider-Man. I mean, it's great. I have very much enjoyed, like Rob, I really enjoy Spider-Man I probably like Spider-Man Far From Home and Homecoming more than even you do. I think I like those films. I like those films a lot. I've really enjoyed it. But the reality is this, Marvel doesn't need Spider-Man. Especially with the fact that they have 5,000 characters and they're about to get 5,000 more once the X-Men universe and mutants and the Fantastic Four and all that stuff come in there. And on top of that, Sony doesn't even, and I hear all these people saying, Spider-Man can't be successful without Marvel. Really? Because history proves otherwise. Before the MCU got going, the Spider-Man franchise was very financially successful. The first Spider-Man film did good. The second man did better. The third, even though I hate the third one, but the third one made tons of money. This is before the new era where comic book movies were the #1 driving force at the box office. That was before all that. And then everybody said, Venom's going to flop without Spider-Man in it. Venom can't do well. Guess what? Venom made $800 million without Spider-Man in it. So don't tell me, like, you're just sending a lot of smoke up the proverbial sky god's ass when you start saying Sony can't be successful with Spider-Man without Marvel, because that's bullshit. Obviously they can. That doesn't mean they will do a good job. I mean, they could fall on their faces. Absolutely they could. I mean, this could turn out completely horribly. But the reality is, like I said, they've made the two best they've made better Spider-Man movies than Marvel ever did. They also made worse Spider-Man movies than Marvel ever did. So let's not forget the flip side of that coin either. But they have had great success. With Venom, they have shown they can create this universe, and they didn't even need Spider-Man in it, let alone needing the MCU. I think Morbius is going to do really well. They showed us some more Morbius footage at CinemaCon too, by the way, which got everybody excited. It looked great. It looked great. Aaron hates spiders, but she was like jumping up and down, excited about it. So that's all cool. So yeah, look, but the bottom line is this. I think you're right, Rob. I think this is the final Spider-Man film we're going to see under the MCU. I think this is the last one. I believe they have a contract for Tom Holland to appear as Spider-Man in one more film, but it won't be a Spider-Man movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
It'll be like Hulk showing up in Thor Ragnarok kind of thing. So I think we'll probably get one more of that. And then I think what we're going to see is him go back over. Now, it's still possible. Rob, you know this. It's still possible as long as there's still time left on the clock, a buzzer beater can happen, right? Remember back at the last D23 a couple of years ago, it was done. The Sony and Marvel deal over Spider-Man was done. But guess what? At the last second, they hammered out a new deal and they extended it a little bit. So it is obviously still possible, Rob, that Sony and Marvel, maybe Kevin Feige goes, you know what? I've got this new idea for the future of the MCU and it becomes very Spider-Man centric. And they go to Sony and say, hey, is there something we can do to re-up this deal? And maybe they give Sony something that they wouldn't have given Sony before. Maybe they say, you know what? You can have Captain America in there. I mean, I'm just pulling ideas out of my ass here, but it is still possible that Marvel could make Sony an offer they can't refuse, or Sony could make Disney an offer they can't refuse. And it's still on the table. As long as there's still time on the clock, anything can happen. I just think the grand scheme is when they signed a new deal, it was so they could just end it properly. That's what I think. Because Rob, when they were killing their deal before, it was very sudden. Things still felt unfinished. I said at the time, and I still believe, that they extended the deal so they could all make more money together and so they could wrap it up properly and create a transition. So I would say I would give it an 80% chance that this is the final Tom Holland Spider-Man movie in the MCU, and then he goes over. But I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, what I find really interesting is if you look at, like, even though Doctor Strange is in this trailer, it's the Doc Ock appearance at the end that I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And that was all Sony. That I think the big attraction, what's interesting, if the rumors pan out, most of these cameos come from Sony. It's not Marvel. And I think that that's telling. Rather than put more ex-Avengers or whatever in the movie, they've gone back to their own well, and that's what they're banking on. And I think that's Sony saying, you know what, this is our franchise. I know we've been dabbling with you over there, Disney and Marvel, but we're going to take this franchise back and make it ours once again. We've got Venom and Carnage. We've got Morbius. We've got Kraven the Hunter. We've got Spider-Man. We don't need, like you said, we don't need anybody else. And wait, what was your original question?
Well, what are the chances you see? What are the chances? I'm saying it's an 80% chance that once this Spider-Man film is done and whatever last appearance Tom Holland needs to make, I think it's an 80% chance that they don't re-up the deal and that he goes back over to Sony.
I agree with you, because it is. I don't think they need to go with Marvel. I think they'll keep their options open. You know, if Marvel wants to make some big blowout like Endgame or Infinity War again, why wouldn't it? Would just benefit Sony to be able to include it's free advertising for their own character. But I think you're absolutely right. 80%. I think that's what Sony, what I meant. My answer to your question was, I think that this movie itself is the best evidence that Sony's going to take back Spider-Man, and they're not going to need Spider-Man. They don't need the MCU. They've got their own. They've got three movies, 3 Spider-themed movies out on deck for the next 6 months. You know, you've got Carnage, you've got Spider-Man, and you've got Morbius. Those are all part. Those are 3. That's as rigorous a schedule as Marvel has, and it's all Spider-Man centric. So I think you're right, man. They're going to take back Spider-Man for good. Not, I'm saying that maybe they can lend him out if they want to on a case-by-case basis. But I think after this movie and after his appearance in whatever Marvel film he's going to show up in, I think they're going to take him back and they're going to make Sony-only Spider-Man movies for at least a trilogy of them.
Well, then the question becomes, what Spider-Man does Sony give us? Are they going to give us the Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Man Into the Multiverse Spider-Man quality? Or are they going to give us Spider-Man 3 or the Amazing Spider-Man 2 level of quality? And that's going to be the big question. Which one are we going to get? Because listen, if we get the Spider-Man quality that we got in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which I still think is either the best or the second best Spider-Man movie ever made, right along with Spider-Man 2, then it's going to be really, really special. It's going to be really special. If, however, they end up giving us the Spider-Man 2 or the Amazing Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man 3 quality level, well, then it's going to be a disaster. So it's all going to be about how do they approach it now. But Rob, they seem to be on a roll. And I just love that Spider-Verse thing.
Yeah, you know what? I think that they've learned. There are lessons to be learned over the last 15 years of comic book movies to see what works and what doesn't. And what you don't want to do is I thought Spider-Man 3, Raimi's Spider-Man 3 was just overstuffed. And it was overstuffed with lots of, it lost its way, I thought. There was just too much in it. And you forget that at the heart of everything is Spider-Man's us. Spider-Man is the everyman. It's the every person who gained these powers from a radioactive spider. And that's why people love Spider-Man, because they see themselves in Spider-Man. And probably he's the most relatable superhero. I mean, I can recognize Kal-El from Krypton being a great person, but I could be Spider-Man. So could you. So could anybody. And I think that's why Spider-Man's enduring appeal lives on year after year after year. And I think that I think what Sony knows this, and they've seen how things work and I don't think we're going to get an Amazing Spider-Man 2, or I don't think we're going to get another Spider-Man 3. I think we're going to get more along the lines of what the MCU Sony hybrids Spider-Man movies have given us. And I think we're going to get a lot more things like Into the Spider-Verse.
You know what? That reminds me of something. You know who has been one of the most unsung heroes, I think, and somebody who's not gotten anywhere near the attention they deserve when looking at the success that Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Far From Home had, and what we're probably going to get with Spider-Man No Way Home. Everybody talks Tom Holland. Tom Holland is great. Everybody talks Zendaya. She's done great in this. Everybody talks Kevin Feige. He is the architect. Nobody talks about John Watts. Nobody talks about John Watts. When we talk about, Civil War and stuff like that, yeah, people talk, hey, the Russo brothers. Nobody, this guy has done nothing but a great job. He has come into a very, very difficult situation, take one of the most popular comic book characters in history, and make his movies, by the way, now that he's in the MCU. And all John Watts has done has stepped in and executed almost perfectly. And nobody, and we're as guilty as it is anybody else, Rob. Nobody has given this guy the credit he deserves. He's done a terrific job with this. And I'm very, very excited to see what he's going to do with Spider-Man No Way Home. I thought the trailer was terrific. I really did enjoy it. I mean, again, it's not the best Marvel trailer, but I still thought it did a lot to get people excited, obviously with breaking records. Question is for you guys. What do you think about, number one, the fact, why do you think that it broke all these viewership records? But number two, do you think the success of No Way Home, and let's face it, it's going to be successful, helps or hurts the idea of Spider-Man staying in the MCU and what Sony decides to do with it? I think they're definitely going to bring him back over. Well, not definitely, 80%. Maybe yes, maybe no. What do you guys think? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.